For 10 years, your family told the story of you like a warning. The cousin who had the money and did nothing with it. The one who never bought the car, never took the job, never seemed to grow up. You were 15 when you made the decision they never forgave. $400, a whole summer of work, gone on something they couldn't see and couldn't sell. They thought you'd thrown it away. They were sure of it for a decade. They were wrong in a way none of them had a word for yet, because what you bought that summer wasn't a thing. And the difference between a thing and what you bought is the whole story. Because what you bought that summer wasn't a thing. And the difference between a thing and what you bought is the whole story. You were 15 the summer you earned it. $11 an hour, loading freight in a metal shed with no fan, your shirt soaked through by 10 in the morning. $400 by August. Real money to a kid. The first real money you'd ever held. Your father expected you to spend it. Your mother expected you to save it. There were only 2 doors in their world, and you were supposed to walk through one of them. You didn't buy a thing. You bought a piece of something. A small share of a boring company nobody at your school had heard of. Not a toy, not a phone, not a car you'd drive past their windows. A sliver of ownership in something that made money, whether you woke up or not. When you told them, the kitchen went quiet in a way you'd remember for years. Your father set down his fork. You spent it on paper, he said. Not angry, worse, disappointed, in a way that sounded like grief. You couldn't explain it then. You barely understood it yourself. You just knew, the way you know things at 15 without proof, that earning money and owning something were not the same act. That one of them ended when you clocked out and the other one didn't. That was the whole bet, that the second thing was real. And the next morning, your father had already lined up the thing he thought would fix you. A real job. Get a real job, he said. He said it with love. That's what made it hard. In his world, a real job was a thing you could hold. A badge, a schedule, a paycheck with your name printed on the top. The same amount every 2 weeks, forever. Proof you were a man. He'd done it for 30 years. So had his father. The wage was honest, and the honesty of it was the whole religion. You don't gamble. You don't wait. You trade your hours for dollars, and you do it until your back gives out. You understood why you believed it. The wage had kept the lights on your entire life. You weren't ungrateful. You were just looking at the same thing from a different angle. And from your angle, the wage had a flaw nobody in your family would say out loud. It stopped the second you stopped. Every dollar required you to be there, awake, lifting. The moment you got tired or old or sick, it ended. A wage isn't wealth. A wage is rent you pay on your own life. What you bought that summer kept moving while you slept. It didn't care if you were tired. That was the entire point, and it was the one point you couldn't make them see. So you took the small jobs. You kept buying pieces, and you let them think you were drifting. What none of you understood yet was how long the in-between would last, and what it would cost you to stand in it. Here is the part nobody warns you about. The waiting doesn't feel like waiting. From the outside, it looks exactly like failure. 10 years. That's how long the in-between lasted. 10 years where the thing you owned grew quietly and showed nothing on the surface. Your cousins bought cars, new ones, with the dealer plates still on. They had the watches, the trips, the photos. They had the evidence. At every holiday, they laid it on the table without a word, and the table understood it. You had a number on a screen that you never touched. You couldn't drive it past anyone's window. You couldn't wear it. You couldn't prove it to a single person at that table. And the longer it grew, the harder it was to explain why you still drove the same dented car. Patience looks exactly like failure from the outside. That's the cruelty of it. The slow path and the dead end look identical for years, right up until the moment they don't. So you stopped trying to explain. You let them seat you at the kids' end of the table. You let your aunt ask gently if you'd thought about going back to school. You let them love you the way people love someone they've quietly given up on. You held the thing. You said nothing. You watched it grow in a place none of them could see. And the only reason it kept growing was a rule you'd learned at 15 and never broke. The same rule that made you look poor. The rule was simple. You never sold. That's what made you look poor. Selling is the only moment anyone can see. Selling turns the invisible thing into cash, into a car, into proof. And the second it becomes proof, two things happen at once. It becomes real, and it stops growing. The day you sell is the day the tax bill is born, and the day the compounding ends. Everyone who sold to buy the watch froze their money at the size it was that afternoon. You let yours keep running. On paper, you had less than them. In truth, you were the only one whose money was still alive. Nobody at the table could tell the difference between a man with nothing and a man with everything who simply hadn't cashed it in. They look identical. Same car, same jacket, same quiet. This is the thing the wealthy understand and never say plainly. Real money doesn't move. It sits perfectly still in your name, growing in the dark, looking like nothing at all. The moment it moves, it can be seen. And the moment it can be seen, it can be taxed, spent, and stopped. The table went quiet in the exact way it had gone quiet when you were 15. The same silence, run backwards. Your father didn't set down his fork this time. He just looked at you, and you watched him do the arithmetic. 10 years of holidays, 10 years of thought about going back to school, 10 years of seating you at the end, all of it rearranging behind his eyes at once. Somebody laughed, the nervous kind. A cousin said, "You're serious." You were serious. And here's what surprised you. You'd waited 10 years for this exact moment, and now that it was here, it didn't feel like winning. It felt like watching everyone you loved realize they'd been wrong about you for a decade, and there was no joy in it, only the quiet. Because the number changed everything they thought about you, and it changed nothing about the 10 years you'd already spent being the one they pitied. The money was real. The respect came fast, and that was the strange part. It came too fast. Overnight, you were the smart one, the one who'd seen it coming. The same cousins who'd laid their cars on the table now asked your advice and listened when you talked. Your aunt stopped asking about school. You should have felt vindicated. Instead, you felt the size of what couldn't be undone, because the 10 years were already spent. You'd lived every one of those holidays as the disappointment, in real time, with no way to fast forward to the part where you were right. You can't get those dinners back. You sat through them as the family warning, and no number erases the fact that you were that person to them for a decade while it was happening. That's the bill nobody tells you about. Not the tax, the years. The long stretch of being misjudged by the exact people whose opinion you wanted most, knowing the whole time you couldn't prove them wrong yet. Being right, you learned, is not the same as being understood. They are two different things, and you only get the second one at the very end, if at all, long after it would have meant something. The respect you have now is real, but you'd have traded some of it to have been believed back when believing you cost something. And that's when you finally understood what the bet had actually been about. It was never the $400. You thought at 15 that you were buying a piece of a company. You weren't. You were buying 10 years of being misread. That was the real price. And you paid it in a currency nobody warns you about. In dinners, in your father's disappointment, in the slow erosion of how the people you loved saw you. The $400 was nothing. Anyone can spend $400. The thing almost no one can do is hold something invisible for 10 years while everyone they love quietly decides they've failed and not cash it in early just to prove a point, to buy back the respect a year sooner. That's the test, and it has nothing to do with money. It's whether you can stand being misunderstood longer than they can stand misunderstanding you. The wealthy aren't smarter than your father. They've just made peace with looking poor on the surface, while the real thing grows underneath, unseen. They can sit in the silence. Most people can't. Most people sell the stock, the patience, the conviction, just to end the discomfort of being doubted. You held Not because you were brave, because at 15, you didn't yet know how much the holding would cost. And by the time you knew, you were already too far in to sell. That's the whole secret. The money was the easy part. The patience was the price. Somewhere right now, there's a 15-year-old holding the first real money he's ever earned. His father is telling him, with love, to be smart, to not gamble, to get a real job, hold something he can touch, trade his hours for a wage, like men are supposed to. The kid is about to do something they won't understand. And if he holds it, really holds it, he's going to spend years looking like the family disappointment in real time with no way to prove he isn't. He doesn't know yet that the looking is the price, not the money, the years.